right, here we are live on Monday night. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Letty Garza. I'm your host, I guess. I'm here with Bill and Richard, as usual. Actually, we missed you last week, Bill. We missed you last week, Bill.
Was I gone last week? I forgot.
It was awful.
Oh yeah, I guess I was. Yeah, that's right. My gosh, what a week it's been. Yeah, who was here to say all the really dumb stuff if I wasn't here? I guess Richard had to do double duty then.
Yeah, I can take over real dumb stuff. I think I held on right there.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah,
Knew I could count on you.
It was a great conversation about cultural appropriation. We had some good examples. We had a great conversation. That's always a hard topic. And then, we talked about Cinco de Mayo a little bit since that was last week. So you missed that fascinating topic. This week we're going to be talking about hair and stop touching it in general. The title of the chapter for this week is Why Can't I Touch Your Hair? And it seems like something that we shouldn't even have to bring up, like many of the other things in this book and just in living our lives in general. But I do want to know if either of you, I think, Bill, you have some examples, but Richard, I don't know if you do examples, experiences, not personally, but for your kids.
People
are
always trying to touch my hair. It's ridiculous.
Maybe you've had that problem. I don't know.
Never.
I've had that too, but I'm sure not to the extent that our guests will be talking to. But do you guys you want to share some hair experiences?
I have something to share right off the bat. It's really cool. Can I share my screen? Is that cool? I have something.
Yeah.
I have a game that I want to show you. You ready for this? It's called Hair Nah. Are you seeing my screen right now?
I'm not.
Or no?
See. Here we go.
Let me see.
There
we go. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's a travel game about a black woman who's tired of people touching her hair. And this is made by a black computer programmer, but says Aim loves to travel, but is hesitant because people often invade her personal space by touching her hair without permission. Are you kidding? When you have black daughters, you seek this stuff out. So you get to pick your shade and your hair. I'll go with the Bantu knots here because those are one of my favorite. And I'll go with Santa Monica because we were just down there yesterday. So I'll just give you a little preview here of how the game works. Basically, it involves you slapping the white people's hands away as they try and touch your hair. and you get points. And they say offensive things like, "Can I touch it?" and all of that stuff. So yeah,
my God.
So that's my game that I wanted to share with you guys. But yeah, so I have 3 daughters who are black. Actually, one's biracial, but still black and still has hair that you just want to absolutely get your hands in. Luckily, I'm their dad, and since I help them with their hair, I get to. But I have seen countless white people who just absolutely reach on in there without asking permission, and it drives me nuts. And my kids have had to it's a web-based game, by the way. Just look up Hair Nah. You can't miss it. I also recommend watching the YouTube video about the creator. She gets into why she created it and that sort of thing. It's kind of interesting. But the and we just had a conversation earlier tonight because obviously my kids all are aware that we're doing this book club, and so we were talking about it, and my kids were expressing that that they needed to be more assertive in telling people to knock it off and telling people, no, you can't touch my hair. Because I mean, it's common enough for an adult woman to have to say no or have to swat people's hands away. But when you're a kid, they just take all kinds of advantage of it. Not that it's any better, but people feel even more entitled, I guess is the best word, to just do whatever they want. And I've often thought, and I'm kind of a chicken about it, so I've never actually done it, but I've often sort of fantasized about, like, what would some of these moms out at swimming do if they touch my daughter's hair and then I walked over and started running my fingers through their daughter's hair? Like, how bad would they freak out? How fast would the cops be called on the creepy guy touching the little kid's hair? But people do it to my kids all the time. And it drives me nuts. And that's something that I'm working on as a parent, is being more assertive and say, look, don't do that. That's not, you don't just walk up and start touching somebody's hair. And it's just so incredibly common. And I understand the fascination, because black hair is fantastic. I mean, those curls and kinks and waves and the texture is amazing. And I can say that because, like I said, I get my hands in the hair all the time around here. I get the fascination, but the privilege and entitlement that somebody has to feel relative to somebody else to feel like it's okay to just start grabbing their hair, that's crazy talk. And white people just need to understand, they need to stop doing that, because it's offensive on many levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get into why it's so offensive and being able to have autonomy. Richard, go ahead.
Oh, the one thing in this chapter that sticks out to me is when she just says it's weird, and sorry, quick. I honestly, I believe, I mean, there's a chapter written on this. There's games being developed that this is an issue. I am just appalled that it's an issue. For me, it's that. I mean, I've seen people with nice tight braids and looked and thought, man, that's a lot of work. I couldn't imagine reaching over and touching somebody just to touch their hair, and I'm appalled that there's white people out there that think that this is okay.
Yeah, we're all appalled.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I want to bring in our guests for tonight. I'm going to bring in Angelle, who has been with us before. Hello, Angelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
And then new to our broadcast is Larissa Mitchell-Reid. She is a friend and fellow entrepreneur, and we're getting that hustle together. And I wanted her to join us for this conversation. So
Larissa.
Welcome to you both. Before we get into specific details for the book, I was thinking maybe you guys could either of you could maybe share a little bit. I know that this is a topic that is easy to talk to with, fellow women who go through similar things. And maybe there are some times when you've been asked about hair or forced into conversations about your hair or other people's hair that you don't want to be in. But what initially, when you hear that question or the title of this chapter, why can't I touch your hair? What are like your first reactions, maybe?
Ooh. For me, okay, so I have a very mixed background. So my sister's hair is different from my hair. My hair's straighter, and bigger curls, and my sister's hair is a little tighter and what we would call kinkier, you know, thick at the roots. But we all have different grades of hair, and mine is just a little bit straighter. So I always get that question, why my hair is so much different than the rest of my family's hair. I just happen to reach back to my mom's side of the family, which is half, you know, Jewish and black, you know, and Cuban and Creole and a whole bunch of stuff. And I didn't like my hair because it was super curly. And I couldn't manage it. I tried to cut bangs one time and they stuck up like this because, you know, curly hair does not lay flat. I tried to blow dry it and I go out in the rain. We lived on the East Coast and it would just like poof back up into, you know, so I have a love-hate relationship with my hair, thus my hair being short now, you know what I mean? Because I just have no talent. It's a very nice grade of hair, and we can talk about the semantics behind good hair, bad hair later, but I would call very straight hair, but I had dreadlocks at one point because I got into a point where I didn't want to do my hair, and I got, what are those fused hair? You know, they fuse them at the roots. I've tried everything. I've tried wigs. And then they just started to dread. So I was like, okay, well, my hair wants to be dreadlocked. So I locked my hair. I grew my hair for 15 years. And then it got to be a barrier when my son got older for jobs, because back then, you know, dreadlocks at a workplace was unacceptable, or you wouldn't get hired, or you were considered dirty and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. For me, it was easy. It was freeing. I just loved it. You know what I mean? But it was a barrier for me to progress as far as my work career, especially in the medical field, because I was in the medical field. I worked at UCLA for 10 years in nursing, and then trying to go back into private sector. You know, Republicans weren't trying to have me in their office, you know what I mean? Not looking like that. So when I think of that, I think of the different triumphs and different experiences that I've had in and out of school, in the workplace. And then my son, when he was younger, he had long hair. I take him to daycare. His hair would be really nice. Pick him up, his hair is all over his head. You know why? Because those little white girls at school were playing with his hair, taking his hair out and pluming it. And he'd come back looking like a hot mess. I'm like, what's going on with your hair? Come to find out they were just playing, just combing his hair at will. Like, and I was like, you do not let people touch your hair, you know? And just like in the chapter, your hands they're dirty. They mess up your curls. You don't know. You know what I mean? So, and that I had to really go there. I was the angry black woman. I just went to school the next day. I was like, do not touch my kid's head. It is not, he's not a pet. He's not an anomaly. He's not a freak of nature. He's a human being that has needs personal space like everybody else. So yeah, all that came flooding back when you asked me that question. Yeah.
I get it. Larissa, what are your thoughts when you hear that? Why can't I touch your hair?
I always think like, ooh, why would you? Yeah. Like, why would you want to touch my hair? Like, why? I don't want to touch your hair. Why do you want to touch my hair? I'm confused by that. And it's just like, I don't even want you to stand close enough to me to touch my hair. So why would I want you to actually touch it? And so in my family, we have several different grades of hair. And here comes one grade down. But we have
you gonna hang out with us?
Family because I have children. And yes, you know how she is. So this is Ciela. Say hi.
Hi.
Say hi.
She loves to say hi.
About we have to learn about different grades and take care of different grades. Hold on just a second. And so I had to learn how to take care of different grades of hair. Not only my own head has 4 different grades of hair in it, but then I have a daughter. I have 4 sons, and all of my boys have different hair and different technique them look presentable. So we just have so much to do. And then for somebody to want to run their hands through it, run their fingers through it, and mess up all the hard work that we put in it. I really liked in the chapter how she mentioned about wash day really is like a whole day activity, because it takes us literally all day to figure out what we're going to do with our hair. My hair is straight right now, so it looks like, oh, this is super simple, super easy, but don't let me start sweating. Like Angel was saying, go to the gym or anything like that. Or yeah, we have so many elements that we fight with our hair just so that we can look presentable and acceptable to people, and then people just want to touch it and mess it all up.
Yeah. Do you remember like when you were younger and you were invited to pool party? We lived in the suburbs, so Sunday was hair day, and then we had to get through the whole week, and then we usually had stuff to do on the weekends, and then we get invited to like a pool party, birthday party type thing, and I would be the only kid that wouldn't go in the pool because if I came home with wet hair, my mom would crucify me. There's no way in the world I could get wet hair. And don't run around at school and sweat up your hair. Don't get sweaty. Do you remember back in the day when you were in school? Oh yeah, my parents would be like, oh no, we're not going through this.
It's so strange that. Not strange, but it's like this.
So I'm biracial. My mom is white. Yes, it is. Okay. It is different. My dad's black, and my learned really quickly because we wanted to swim, we wanted to hang out, and we were all over the place. We always had braids in the summer. She was like, okay, here you go. We're giving you some braids so that you can go to the pool parties and hang out with your friends and do all this. I was born and raised here in Bakersfield, and so you know how hot it is here in the summertime. So there was no, sit on the side of the pool with your feet in. No.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
So
I don't know. Oh, sorry.
When we go into that conversation, then Angel, you brought this up a little bit before we went on. That the first story she shares in that chapter, where she's asked, "Is that your real hair?" And so there are a lot of us that are completely ignorant to, even a lot of what you're saying. I know from watching, certain documentaries that I think you're going to bring up later, or movies that, either romanticize it or completely ignore reality when it comes to that TV shows. I want to show a clip later that has some of this. But is that your real hair? Is this something, how common is this? How offensive is it? And how uncomfortable should we all be around people who say these kinds of things? And what can we do? What can we say?
Do you want to go? Go ahead.
I have to say, I was blown away when I read part of this chapter. I was like, did he really just say that in front of 20 plus people, ask this woman at a dinner table if that was her real hair? Like, did he really just go there? I'm asked all the time, my hair is long, but it's not like super long. But I'm asked all the time if this is my real hair. So honestly, I've become kind of immune to that question, and I'm just like, yeah. But I do get weaves. I get hair added in, extensions. I just literally last night had my best friend cut out some tracks because I was like, I can't do this. It's pulling too much. But so I do different things like that with my hair. So no, it's not always my real hair, but I really have grown accustomed because I've been that entire life, and I'm just like, yeah, or it is because I bought it. That's one of my good responses. Like I bought it, so yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, automatically say, well, I've tried wigs too high. I've tried a sewing. Oh my God, it was just like, no, that was not a good look. Walking around doing this all the time because your head is itchy. So you ever see a black woman doing this? It's because her head is itchy and she doesn't want to get in there and go like this because it's just not a good look. So you walk around patting your head. So that wasn't working for me. And then I tried to wash and go, and it was like I'd have to get up an hour early just to like wet my hair over again because they didn't have the whole banana thing. They didn't have all these wraps and stuff they have for curly hair. I went to sleep on a cotton pillow and woke up. One half of my head is like all flat to one side. So I got to put water back in my hair. I got to put whatever I put in my hair. And that's an extra hour and then you got to wait for it to dry or blow dry it, or you walk around the house, let it air dry before you go outside and stand outside in the cold to wait for the bus. That wasn't no. That wasn't happening either. So then I was like, okay, I did dreadlocks, and that's where I got the most attention because I would be standing in public or in line, or I took the public bus sometimes because it was just easier in my car. And people get close to you and I would feel people like, why? What gives you the inalienable right? Think that you have so much privilege that you should just reach out and just touch my hair. I don't know you. just literally just like, oh my God, I thought it would be scratchy, or I thought it would be harder. It's so soft. And you're just sitting there and you're so stunned. You can't even say anything because you just can't believe this just literally just happened. You know what I mean? Yeah, no. I've tried it all, but I think short hair is good, but it gets on my nerves because I don't like to keep cutting it. So I'm actually entertaining the thought of growing my dreadlocks back out again. So yeah.
Okay, in those stories,
To touch
for
on what
both
you
of
just
you,
said, Angel.
sorry, Larissa, go ahead. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Sorry, Lexi. I'm sorry. It's late, but I like jump in, but I'm totally like late to jump in. But I was gonna say, to touch on what you just said, Angel, about people touching your hair. So I went about has it been like 3 years ago now? Maybe almost 4 years ago. Probably 4 years ago now. I went with my brother, who's also biracial, to China, and I had really long twists, individual twists. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I said individual. Like they didn't look like dreadlocks, but they were individual and long like dreadlocks are, right? And so I'm in China and I feel my hair lifting up, like in all these different directions. And there's the people in China who were like so amazed because one, they probably hadn't really ever seen a black person in real life because I was in a smaller town. And so they were like, oh my God, here's this black person. And then I had these long twists. And so I would turn around and I'm 5'11", so I'm really tall. And I would turn around and there'd be like this 5-foot person holding my hair up in the back, like as if it was like a wedding frame. And like looking at it, examining it, trying to figure out like how it was all put together and feeling it. And they would be talking, but I didn't understand them. And then my brother has big blonde curls. So he has an afro and it's blonde and like a little bit brown, but mostly blonde. And so he's, how tall is he? He's like 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in there. So these little people were trying to reach up and touch his hair, but he was so tall they couldn't reach it. But my hair was so long, like they were just, and they were taking pictures with us or with us like in the background. Like we were celebrities. It was so surreal. It was, and all it was our hair and of course our skin color, but it was an experience.
Yeah. It just amazes me that people just don't have a clue. And it's, even if they ask, no. Like, would I walk up to you and touch your hair? Like seriously, like if I walked up to you, Bill, and I just like put my fingers through your head, wouldn't you think like, what in the entire, what is wrong with you? Why did you touch me? And then if you were with your wife, I'd probably get beat up on top of it. Just like go through, you know what I mean?
She'd probably think it was really funny because she'd know how uncomfortable I would be.
But yeah, it's just,
I don't know anyone who is comfortable with that. Any person who would be comfortable with a stranger, especially a stranger, coming up and touching your hair like that. I don't want anyone touching my hair. No one touches my hair except me. Seriously. And so I can't even imagine like being in the public space and having someone start, which has happened to me, but probably not to the same extent. But it's that same, like, who cares if you thought it would be soft? I don't care that you thought my hair would be soft.
Right.
It's not. I didn't invite you to investigate that. So some of the things that you were saying, she talks about this idea of trying to be less black. Straightening, the different styles, maybe wearing the wigs. Is this something that you grew up thinking that this was why you had to go through the hair experiences?
Yeah, I think it was hair insecurity because I'm like I said, we're multiracial, but we're an obvious black family. We all come in shades of beautiful tones of brown. I'm the lightest of the three. And then again, like their hair, my other hair texture, my sister's was different. It was coarser. My father's hair was coarse. My mom's hair was like mine, but she always wore it in that little bouffant, and they wear the big curlers. And, she's always straightened her hair, like, or wore a set. And I think it was because I lived in the suburbs most of my life, and I was usually like one of two Black kids in a class, or sometimes the only Black kid in the class. You start to get a complex about who you are. You lose your identity. You forget who you are, and you feel insecure about yourself because they bring, attention to your hair or your skin tone, because, you know what I mean? And you get that whole thing, well, you're Black, but you're not really Black because your hair is straight and you have light skin. And so basically you're saying, like, I'm more comfortable around you because you're light skin and you have straight hair. You know what I mean? And it was offensive, but what do? You just kind of, because coming from, I wouldn't even say biracial, multiracial, because I have several different races in my family or cultures in my family. And you don't learn about that until you get older and appreciate that. You know what I mean? But I was so insecure that I tried so many different ways to straighten my hair or hide my curly hair, or, I couldn't cut it. It was like really long. It was down past my butt for years. You know what I mean? And I always liked my hair, but then when I got older, I always felt more insecure about it because people would always bring so much attention to it. So then I started to feel like, well, insecure, I was just very insecure because of the attention. Did everybody freeze, or Leticia freeze?
I think Letty froze a little bit. I was like, is she just holding really still, or is she frozen?
I'm doing that new. Isn't there a new challenge on Instagram?
Yeah. So yeah, that insecurity made me try to blend. So people wouldn't ask me so many questions, so I wouldn't stand out so much. But the more I tried to blend, the more I did stand out, if that makes any sense. Because my hair would always change, because back in the day, everybody had the same hairstyle for 10 plus years, and then we change our hair all the time, braids, Bantu knots. Now it's twist outs, wigs every once in a while if you have short hair and you're growing it out, dreadlocks, because I'm just like one of those people that just don't like to deal with my hair. So I just like let it go and do whatever it wanted to do. So yeah, for me, it was trying to blend in and just getting, people to stop noticing my hair or just noticing me and just kind of being visible, but it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Larissa?
For me, I was always trying to be, like you said, accepted. And yeah, I've always had issues with being biracial, because for white people, I'm Black, and to Black people, I'm white. So I've always tried to figure out and I know you can't tell right now, really, and like when it's curly, it's fake afro. I don't have, I almost said you, but I don't have big curls that just like a lot of mixed girls you see have. Like I have real textured hair. And I remember when I was a little girl, my mom, who's white, used to always give me ponytails, twists, little braids. And then like in the summertime, get us those long individual braids to protect our hair. I remember I was probably like 9, 10, and I visit my father for the weekend and came home with permed hair, my hair permed straight, because my mom, I only remember this because my mom was so angry. She was livid that my hair had gotten permed. And from that day on, I permed my hair up until natural. So, and that would have been almost 20 years at perming my hair. Because my mom, back in the 90s, and especially as a white woman, how to take your daughter's hair back to its natural like that. So how would she have done the research to the way it was, Then I got in the mode, well, the straight, that's what this is how. And so as an adult, I just kept doing it that way. And literally 7 years ago, I was pregnant with one of my sons, and I decided I'm not perming my hair anymore. I'm going to learn how to take care of it. And I watched so many YouTube videos. I talked to my friend who, she's Black, how to take care of her hair. And I used to always see like how she was taking care of her hair and doing all these different styles and stuff. And I was like, I can learn how to do that. And I I'm mixed. I'm black enough. I'm white enough. Like, I'm just me. Let me just be me and express myself through my hair. So right now my hair is straight, but I do Bantu knots. I do twist outs. I do braids are one of my kids, and all that stuff. But in taking my hair back to its natural state, my hair finally grew. Like, my hair was never this long. It was probably like up here, just barely at my shoulders, and always choppy looking because it was breaking off from the chemicals. And then I finally just accepted, embraced it, and now I love my hair. I love my hair, and I want to teach my daughter to love her hair. My boys, they can love their hair too, but they all like haircuts. So. but yeah, so I wanted to instill that in them. I'll go 20 plus years doing something to their hair to be acceptable, to be less black, or to make people feel better, you know?
I think in general, this idea that she brings up about hair being used as a tool of oppression, we talking about this, but I feel like this is a sexist thing, but it's also a racist thing. I don't know if Bill and Richard have any comments on this up to this point, considering, well, I don't think that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you may not have experienced anything like this personally. I don't know if this could be maybe Richard on the military side, if there's something that you can connect to or speak about. I know that the rules are changing, right, in terms of the Crown Act, schools, and maybe even the military in terms of hair. But this idea that hair can be used as a tool of oppression. Does anybody want to chime in on that one?
Well, yeah, the schools are sending kids, 7, 6-year-olds home because they have elaborate braids in their head. That's a tool form of oppression. These poor girls are getting their hair elaborately braided, and it's beautiful. Beautiful cornrows, and sometimes with the beads, or it's just beautiful. And then the school administration sending them home because it's not in the handbook, the student handbook. Over the summer, and even last summer, 2019, there are so many kids between the ages of 5 and 10 that were either kicked out of school or sent home because of the type of hair that they had. One kid that really resonated with me, and it's a form of oppression, was a wrestler. Beautiful dreadlocks. They cut his hair during a wrestling match. They made the referee and the coach cut his hair during a wrestling match. He ended up winning, but he still left defeated because they just totally vilified his look, you know what I mean, and who he was and what he represented. And even though he won that match, he wasn't the same person that he walked in there when he walked out. That really got me. I was just like, if we haven't progressed yet, we will never progress. That act right there, it was on TV, it was in front of friends and family, his student body, other schools. How demeaning is that? Do you know what I mean? Because you can't finish your wrestling match because you have dreadlocks, and the referee is uncomfortable with that.
Right.
If that isn't the ultimate form of oppression, I don't know what is.
Sure is.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking to watch. I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that? I think it was 2019, the summer of 2019.
Richard, were you going to say something?
I was just the experience in the military and going back for the 30 years that I had in the military, and thinking about many Black sailors, both men and women, and the struggles that they used to have when it came to standards and inspection standards. Women struggled because and I'll just tell you, one of the minimum standards is that when you're in your dress uniform, that your hair doesn't touch your collar.
Touch your collar, yep.
You're tipping your hair up, and the struggle that many Black female sailors had with that. And to fail an inspection is that goes in your fitness report. Fitness reports decide who gets promoted, who doesn't. So that's racist in itself. But also for the health of the males, I remember because males used to get it off the hairline. We get the high and tight, just like I was able to do. But the high and tight for me just meant, I went and got a haircut. but then and I forget what the rash was, but it was like the
Clipper
bump.
rash.
Yeah, and struggle with that because then that very painful because the way the hair grows back, and then but still forced to maintain that hair standard for those years, and to grow it out meant that you would fail an inspection, and you know, a lot has changed, and I'm watching and I'm reading as they're rewriting those standards because this short of hair and actually shorter than this, but why is that a standard if it has no impact on your ability to serve? Those kinds of considerations have to come about. I am seeing some change in that, but I still don't know if it's enough to really sort of bring about the equity that's needed within the military ranks.
I think it's still a thing in some military areas. It just depends on where you're stationed at and who your commander is at the time. If they really enforce it, some do, some don't. Most do. But that high and tight for a black man, when you get those little bumps in the back, that is excruciating because our hair goes back curly. And you can't do it that tight. You know what I mean? You have to have like a shadow so you can at least have a little bit of hair peeking out so you don't get those bumps, those razor bumps. But yeah, I think that's still a thing in the military. It just depends on where you're stationed and what your just who your commander is at the time.
But it is something that because white people generally don't have to deal with this. I mean, this is around the world. This isn't just in America, that those kinds of standards are implemented and enforced. And if you look different, right, that's this tool that's being used. I think for us, well, I've seen, guys, it's crazy, but even there was just having curly hair in general, but I know this, we're talking about black women's hair or black men's hair. But just having curly hair in general, I've seen in offices where women, the day they don't straighten their hair, it's like a big deal in the office. Like, oh my God, your hair's so wild today. It's like, get the hell out of here.
Oh yeah, you get the wild look. Oh, you're going for the wild look today. Oh, look who woke up late and didn't have time to do their hair. Or are we trying a new hairstyle? Just those digs, those little subtle digs. You know what I mean? I didn't, we're not going to talk about you if you didn't put on makeup today and you got puffy eyes. You know what I mean? I just keep it moving. I could care less about your puffy eyes. Why are you concentrating on my puffy hair? If I want to have puffy hair, I want to have puffy hair. Yeah.
But it's that the whole thing about, the oppressive system is the not professional. The words that she used to describe, some of the words we used in a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the different ways, urban, ghetto, like all of these different words that are used to describe people. They're also used to describe hair when it doesn't conform to whatever office space, society, and they don't feel like microaggressions. They feel like just aggressions. But this idea that I was just joking, you look great, but why can't I comment? Or it looks good, or the wild thing always pissed me the hell off. And I've watched women have to deal with that. Like I've watched women be so uncomfortable. And I'm going to say especially white women, because they've never had to really deal with that. And maybe if they grew up that way, and they had unruly hair or crazy hair, curly hair, kinky hair growing up, that was always, knotted up or whatever. Hair is just so much of a damn issue. And we're like vilified for it, as if we can control what comes out of our head.
Exactly. I think, do you remember, and this is a French Creole history, the women, and this is how it started with when you see older slave women or just slave women with their heads wrapped up. Because white men had such a fascination with their hair, or just people had a fascination with their hair, and the white women were insecure about it. They didn't like the attention that the black women were getting. So I think it started in the Midwest, South area, they had to wrap up their hair. So you always saw them with their hair wrapped up, especially if they were in the house, you know, and they were of mixed race and they had pretty curly hair, you know, people were fascinated by their hair. So they would have to wrap their hair up, cover their hair up when they were in public. So that's another form of oppression that still happens now. You know what I mean? Like if I were to wear a head wrap to the county right now, they'd probably look at me like, oh, you decide to change up your style today. Or, you know, it would be something, some side remark or something. But when you were saying that, I just remembered me and my son, we were doing some history thing not too long ago. And that was a little nugget that I learned because my mom was always wrapped up her hair. My grandmother's always wrapped up her hair. And then they told us the history behind that. So yeah, that was just another thing too. That's another form of oppression.
Okay. On, I think it's page 159, she gives a list of the different reasons why. I mean, just in general, this isn't even about race or culture. It's just like as a human being, these things should just be part of doing your normal day-to-day business. And so this idea about touching anybody anywhere without their permission is just not okay. And my hair is attached to me. So why are you so fascinated? And you know, the objectification behind that. This Richard brought this up, this idea that it's weird. I mean, and if you said that, like Bill, if you ever said to someone, what if I walked up to your kid and started touching their head? How would they react? They would be so offended. But they would be like, you know what I mean?
If anybody ever says that to any of my kids, they're gonna hear it from me. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna lose it. It's bad enough when they're complimenting their hair and they're saying, "Oh, your hair's so pretty, let me touch it." If you ever say my kid's hair is weird, I will lose my mind. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm actually not sorry. In our house, we spend a whole lot of time talking about how great hair is and how important it is to take care of your hair. Because I know that as my kids grow into Black men and women, that their hair is so critical to who they are and how they relate to people and their culture. Anybody ever said anything negative about their hair, I would lose my mind. I'm not kidding. It's just, that's not okay. You can say whatever you want about my hair. I don't care about that. My hair is not part of who I am. It's not part of my identity. I'd rather not lose my hair, but there's nothing special about it. But no, it's not the same. And that's something that, you know, all the white people out there who are listening to this need to understand, is that it's not just somebody else's hair. It's you're crossing a line into identity and culture, and you've got no business being there in that way. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yes. Larissa, you talked about having
oh yeah,
oh,
I like the point that she
dirty hands. That's so true.
Go ahead, Letty. What were you gonna say?
Well, I wanted to ask Larissa, because she's raising all these boys. Just in general, I mean, I feel like we tell our kids not to get their hands dirty and, like, you know,
speaking of dirty hands, let's talk about boys.
Well, I'm raising one too, so. But he, you know,
I hear that.
He's a teenager now. He cares a little bit more. But this idea that hands are dirty in general.
No, yes. So much time your dirty hands through it. And, you know, I was going to say, I like the point that she brought out when she was talking about the bullet point of it's weird. It is weird because, as she says, like whenever you find hair somewhere in your food, on a hotel pillowcase or just like on a chair, everybody's like, ew, there's hair, and like throw it on the floor. But it's okay. If it's on head, like everywhere else, it's nasty hair. But if it's our hair, then you want to touch our hair. And then 9 times out of 10, part of our hairs don't come out on your fingers, like because we shed. So you get a coil wrapped around your finger and pull out a piece of my hair. Then you got my hair. Then you can take it home as a souvenir.
They're charging people. They get their dirty hands into your hair.
Now you can. You don't just have a black friend. You have a black friend's hair.
This idea here, I can definitely relate to, but some people may not understand what this means, that curls are precious. Does anybody want to enlighten us a little bit on what this means?
Curls are precious? Curls are precious. Do you know how long it takes to get your hair curly and get the frizz out of your hair? And then you have somebody come and rake their fingers through it and just revert the whole process within like 2 minutes, 2 seconds. And it took you an hour just to get a decent set of curls. Yeah, curls are very precious. They're very time consuming. If you do it right and you have the right materials, they can look bomb. If you can't, you can have a day, or you could just have I need to wear a hat day. Curls are very, very precious. So to have somebody come in and just go, these are nice, and it goes,
they are
right on out. So you got one that got a lopsided head. Now you got this head that's out here.
Exactly.
You got these curls. You know, you got a lopsided head now for the rest of the day because somebody just came through and just like without even asking you.
And there is no going back.
No, you got to go in the bathroom and try not to put too much water because then you wash all the product out. But then you got to put enough water into it so you can get it back. And then your hair is still jacked up the rest of the day till you get home.
You got to go back to square one if you want it right.
Exactly.
Yes. And I have to say, yes, you do. And I have to say, it takes longer for me to wear my hair curly than for me to wear it straight like this. Like this, it takes me 15 minutes. Trying to wear my hair with the protective style, it might take 20 hours because the style has to and then have that. Trying to afro, it takes. Like that's one reason I deal with it right now. You know, like, and then somebody, like you said, just comes and rakes their fingers through it. Or have you had them do your poopy? I've had the head before. I'm like,
I think, I wanted to kind of talk because I know that maybe to some people it seems like, why are you paying so much attention? Why are you giving so much attention to the hair? Why are you talking about how you got to take such good care of it? And it may seem or may sound like it's like this thing where maybe there's some vanity attached to it. You're spending so much time and effort and money to take care of. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because especially with this list, it's like saying curls are precious, and she's saying it for a reason. She's not, she's choosing her words carefully. She's not bullshitting here. This is like a real true statement. And she's using the word precious for a reason. And like Bill was saying earlier, this is about identity, and it's about culture, and and these things mean something to me, not just because they're attached to my body, not just because they're attached to your body. It goes beyond that. So I don't want anyone to get this impression that we're talking in this way about how much time and effort and money maybe that it takes to take care of that. Right? That it's beyond that.
It's beyond, it is, because our hair is dry. We have to stay moisturized. The longer it gets, the better chance it's going to break off. So there's a lot of work behind it. And Bill, having mixed kids, that their hair, you can get out the shower and just comb your hair and throw some whatever in and keep going with the comb, right? But your girls' hair, you have to moisturize it. Once they get water in it, it has to be dried properly or air dried. And if it's air dried, it has to have product in it so it doesn't get too brittle. Then you can't have too hard of a product, because I've actually had my hair break because the product was just too hard or too heavy. You know what I mean? So you got to find that nice balance in between where something's not going to weigh your hair down and then something that's like too light. So you got to find a product that works for you, that moisturizes your hair. So when you wake up in the morning, you're not wearing a haystack on top of your head and you got to start over from day, you know what I mean? Because you try to get those curls to last a couple of days. You know, you put a banana, what is it? The banana, you put it in on top of your head and then cover it up. So when you take it down, this part's all stretched out, but all the inside is still curly. You know, you try to rock that for at least 2 or 3 days before you have to wet it and start all over again. You know, who has time to get up every morning and do your hair for an hour? That's no.
My kids are swimmers too, so they're competitive swimmers. So we've got all kinds of extra issues because of that. The hair is always dry, always. But then you put product in the hair, and you put a latex swim cap on that,
and it comes off.
It just like whoop, just pops right off because
you can't.
So slippery.
You know, what I would recommend is that don't put any, because I was a swimmer too. Don't put anything in their hair like at least a day before. And then just kind of slightly rinse it out, let it dry so the cap will stick on. And then right after the swim meet, just have them carry conditioner. I don't care if it's Suave or White Rain, some kind of cheek conditioner. Have them put it in their hair and slather it and just put it in a ponytail. So this way that chlorine won't dry it out before they get to take a shower.
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. And as a white guy, I spend a lot of time on the hair care products aisle. And we watch a lot of YouTube videos. And we spent a lot of time down at Capricia's studio downtown on Chester Avenue with the protective styles, because that's way easier to deal with in the pool.
Yeah. Just carry conditioner. Cheek conditioner is your best friend when you're in a pinch, for real.
Yeah, that works. We put it in a spray bottle.
All of this is to kind of come back. This last thing, because she goes like, oh, it's weird, hands are dirty, curls are precious. But then the last thing that on that list, she says it's a continuation of the lack of respect for basic humanity and bodily autonomy of Black Americans that is endemic throughout white supremacy. So it's a serious thing. So we're talking about hair and you know, styling it, and Bill, you brought up protective styles, and a lot of people, if you're not in it, if you don't have children, if your hair isn't like that, you don't really understand what that means. Google it. Okay, we're not here to go through a whole
educate yourselves.
Educate yourself. Excuse me. But the idea is that we're not just talking. We're not, you know, making light of this. These things are real conversations that we have to have. And we're talking about basic humanity. And bodily autonomy, and why this is a whole chapter in a book, even though it's a short chapter, a whole chapter in a book when we're talking about race. So it's important that we bring it back to that. And this last quote, our hair is used to help determine our place in a white supremacist society. We talked a little bit about this in the workplace, military and society, kids in swim meets, you know, boys being brokenhearted at, you know, wrestling matches because they're making them cut their hair. Just the utter lack of like humanity that comes, that you have to like go forth and act in that way, like to put that child through that traumatic experience. It does have to do with our place in a white supremacist society. Any last thoughts before we close this out about beautiful hair?
I want to say that it's really easy to go on YouTube and understand exactly what we're talking about. You can go on and protective style, Black protective style, or how do I do my hair in curl in Bantu knots, and look at how long those videos are, and look at those instructions and see what we go through to get our hair the way that we want our hair. Watch a YouTube video on how to do a weave, learn what a weave is, and then you can understand what we go through, and leave our hair alone. Just don't touch it. Let us enjoy all that hard work we put into it, because once you touch it and start messing with it, we lose all those hours that we put in.
Exactly.
It's easy.
And
It's
tho-
not
and
like
for
the
those-
90s when my mom couldn't do research, you know, like it's so easy now.
Yeah. And I just have a message for caregivers at school or caregivers in general. When you're taking care of a Black kid, don't touch their hair. Don't comb it. Don't experiment with it. Don't do anything to it, because that mom took a lot of time to get that hair, you know, on point. And then when you bring comb to pick them up and you see that they look like they've been walking on the top of their head, that is just not cool at all. Just keep your hands to yourself. That's all I got to say. Just keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Do that style.
I think in the,
The kids be
in the
cooperative too, so they had to just sit still.
Sorry, we got some lag going on here. Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
I'm always a little slow, but this is even worse. You know, I just want to like bring it back to the scope of the book, because I think it's important. It's not just personally offensive to touch a Black person's hair. It is oppressive to touch a Black person's hair if you're a white person. It's oppressive to determine by your white standards that a Black person is dressed unprofessionally because they're wearing their hair natural. It is oppressive to ask a Black person if that's their real hair. You don't see me walking around asking all the white ladies, "Hey, is that your natural color?" Or, you know, "What are you doing in there?" No, we don't do that. Nobody says that. It's oppressive, and it is a positioning mechanism that I, as a white man, use subconsciously or consciously, it doesn't matter, to put myself in a position relative to a Black person. If I'm using any sort of pejorative on their hair or touching it, that's not okay. And white people need to be aware of that very real fact. Because there's a history there that white people need to understand, that hair has historically been used as a means of keeping people down and putting people in their place. And because of that history, I mean, we talked a couple of weeks ago. We did the chapter, "Why Can't I Say the N-Word?" It's the same thing. There's a history there, and if you don't understand that history, and you are, you know, clumsily walking all over that history as a white person, then you're still at fault, because we have a responsibility to understand that history. So I guess that's my takeaway here is understand, take some time, educate yourself. Don't put it on a person of color to educate you. Educate yourself. That's why we have YouTube. That's why we have Google. There's a million resources out there. There's a million people who have kindly volunteered their time to explain things in a very simple way for you. Just take the time and do the reading and watch the videos. Educate yourself. Then you don't have to ask your coworker.
Exactly.
Thank you, Bill. Let's see. We're coming up at the end of the hour. I'm going to call attention to the fact, thank you everybody for this conversation, but I want to also bring up the fact that this is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Again, if you want more information, go find it. There are so many things happening online at organizations, local colleges, local historical groups, local cultural groups. Everyone is talking about it and doing as much as they can during even this, as we're working our way out of a pandemic. So be aware of this. I do want to say again, I said this last week, that TikTok surprised me. I don't know about you guys, but they're offering several live videos where they're highlighting some of their users, their influencers. Some of them have to do with food, fashion, comedy. There's all these different things being highlighted. So that is definitely a place that a lot of people have access to. It's easily accessible, and you can start following these people and get more information about each one of them. There's some cool stuff happening there. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to bring this up because Epic Consulting, myself, am partnering with a Kern County clinic. It's the Henrietta Weil Memorial Child Guidance Clinic. Every Thursday in May, we are partnering to do this kind of a live, let's talk about mental health. It's called Therapy Thursdays. It's every Thursday this month. The next one will be this Thursday. We're doing a part 2 on depression, talking about diagnosis and coping skills, and the same kind of mentality where it's like these things are serious. Let's talk about how to cope, but then keeping in mind how it's affecting people's lives and how to get help. They focus on children. It's a child guidance clinic, and they have a lot of clients in the local school district, but they also have adult services. And because of that, I wanted to share a quick promo for that. So please bear with me. This is for Thursday. It's about a minute long. Okay, so that's for this Thursday. So thank you for listening to that and watching that promo real quick. I'm going to share one last thing. I know we're at the end of the hour. I'm going to share that today is Mother's Day in Mexico. And I wanted to bring up a quick photo of my mom. This is not approved, so please don't tell her. I'm putting her picture up. I will be in trouble. It's fine. There's my beautiful mom. And that's me. Check out my hair, my bangs. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mamas out there for yesterday and then today. Just wanted to share that real quick. Okay, we're at the end of the hour. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation about hair. And again, if you want to learn more, go find it out. Thank you, Angelle and Larissa, for joining us. Thank you, Bill and Richard. And we'll see you next week. We will be talking about what microaggressions are. And
ooh, that's a good one.
Right?
That's a loaded one.
Definitely. The list is long. All right. See you next week. Thank you.